Welcome to Aging Insights. I'm Grace Egan, Executive Director of the New Jersey Foundation for Aging. Aging Insights is produced by the New Jersey Foundation for Aging to provide information and resources to boomers, seniors, and caregivers. The New Jersey Foundation's mission is to enable seniors to live with independence and dignity in their communities. Promoting dignity and quality of life can take many forms. In our Aging Insights programs, we have addressed a variety of topics, including health issues, economic and food security, creativity, and fitness. And today we're going to look at safety on the road. Our guests include Raymond Martinez, Chairman and Chief Administrator of the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission, and Dr. Norman Einhorn, a board-certified optometrist, a specialist in eye disease treatment, who serves on the Motor Vehicle Medical Advisory Panel. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I want to just say the New Jersey Foundation for Aging has really been very interested in transportation and older driver issues because mobility is just so crucial as we age because we want to stay engaged in our communities. So, you know, we really try to get a full perspective on the issue, and we've done in the past a series that included a lot of national and state specialists that looked at road design, road signs, functional fitness, and other ways to help drivers stay the best in terms of their skills on the road. So I'm really pleased that we could talk about this today. And I know that the Motor Vehicle Commission has really a lot of new programs, so I'm very pleased that you're here, Commissioner, to talk about it.
Thank you very much, Grace, and thank you to Foundation for having us.
And before we do that, I mean, what made you come to New Jersey? I think I'm just really curious.
I was working in Washington. I had previously worked in New York City, so I was living in both cities.
Oh.
And we moved.
New Jersey was in the middle?
It was in the middle, and we moved to New Jersey, and we could not be happier. We're in a wonderful community in Middletown, New Jersey, and it's wonderful.
Well, that's great. And yet at the same time, you probably have so many skills in terms of the motor vehicle work that you did in New York State or New York City that could, you know, translate to New Jersey.
It's been a very good base for the work that I'm doing in New Jersey. I served as Commissioner of Motor Vehicles in New York State for 5 years, and I served on the National Board of Motor Vehicle Commissioners for that time as well.
So it's, you know, it's interesting that there is a whole network nationally, and I know when we were doing work, we could look at the older driver rules that were across the country, and New Jersey has a lot of older drivers. The American Automobile Association says that 1 in 4 drivers in New Jersey is over 55. So how many drivers do you think we have that are older drivers in New Jersey?
Well, it's interesting because we have an aging population. In New Jersey, we have about 6 million drivers, but almost 1 million of them are over age 65. It's about 17% of our driving population is over 65 years old. But you know, what we also know is that people are more fit. They are they're living longer, they're more active longer, and so that's one of the things that both the governor and myself have taken into consideration when we designed this Wisdom Behind the Wheel program to reach out to this community.
Yeah, this is a very nice initiative, so I hope that you'll really explain it in great detail for us. I think there have been studies that really have kind of countered that image that older drivers have more accidents. And we know that while there are accidents, that oftentimes they're more injured in those accidents as opposed to being the highest population. That I think teenagers still win that award, which is really sad. But anyways, but please tell us about Wisdom Behind the Wheel.
Well, this is a unique program that we've at Motor Vehicles has put together with the governor's approval to reach out specifically to this target population because we understand that we have an older population driving, again, about almost 17% of our driving population over 65 years old, but people are living longer, driving longer, having more healthful lives. Our goal the goal in the past was almost with a, to say, well, be careful or we're going to take your license away. That's not what we're doing today. We're reaching out and saying, we want you to drive as long as you can safely,
Right.
and do it in a very positive way, to understand that you can adjust to aging, and as long as you're cognizant of the changes that come with aging, so that you're a safer driver and a better driver. And that's kind of what we've done with all the different populations in our driving.
So what does a typical Wisdom Behind the Wheel program look like?
We have all of our partners. For instance, AAA is a great partner. The Department of Transportation from the state, the Division of Highway Traffic Safety, and we're very fortunate to have Dr. Einhorn participate in many of our programs. He's, of course, an optometrist who not only serves on our medical advisory panel, but is a practitioner, both in Belmar and in Marlton. And so he brings us that expertise that we don't have in-house.
Yeah, it sounds like a really nice mix, and that it sounds like the participants in the audience probably really gain a lot of information. So, I mean, how many times have you done this program?
We've been operational for about 6 months. We do it by invitation. We've reached out to many of the senior communities. We're open to invitation for any of the viewers out there who have senior groups that would like to have us come in. The program lasts about an hour. It is free, and we ask them to visit our website at njmvc.gov, or we'll provide some information through your program later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think there are so many aspects of it, and so you have a medical expert, you have AAA. Do you have occupational therapists, or, I mean, you know, what do different aspects of the program entail?
It is, first of all, explaining the laws in the state, and then the best practices. You know, what seniors can do to monitor themselves, but also then to, you know, if they need to take a course, for instance, if they feel that they need to, we give them avenues to pursue for that. And then Dr. Einhorn can talk about talks about the medical areas that how you should be monitoring yourself, things you should be looking for, and how you can adjust. Because as what he does as part of the medical review, and of course as also as part of his practice, he sees a lot of the circumstances that come with aging, but of course he can explain that better than I.
Exactly, and I know, having spoken with AAA in the past, that often they have a car fit program.
Exactly.
And you know, I think there's a lot of, they have some devices, and I don't know if they have devices for vision. So, but Dr. Einhorn, so why don't you give us a sense of some of the issues that you see related to driving in your practice, and obviously on the Medical Review Board. Oh, but tell us about yourself first.
Okay. Well, basically I've been in practice since 1983. I have had the pleasure of being appointed in 1991 to the medical panel. At that time there were 2 of us. I was the junior.
You must have seen a lot of changes over the years.
A multitude of changes, and there are now 3 doctors on the panel.
That's great.
And the nice part is that I would say on a weekly basis, I would receive 1, 2, maybe 3 incident reports where we have to make decisions. More importantly to that is my background is more related to traumatic brain injury, strokes.
Okay.
And so as a consequence, what ends up happening is I see a lot of what I would prefer to call mature people who have visual issues as a consequence of those kinds of medical problems. And when that occurs, frequently, as you so eloquently said, we live in a world now where, as an aging population has learned to function with driving as a necessary part of their life, frequently that is one of the main goals of my patients in hospital, to get behind the wheel again. The practice is related to not only evaluating problems, but also rehabilitating problems. And that includes, when you mentioned occupational therapy, I deal with occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech therapists on a daily basis. Right. So I'll bring that aspect into the group when we're having those kinds of discussions.
You know, it's interesting, occupational therapy is such a broad field when you think about it, and there's the Certified Driving Rehabilitation Specialist, which is a really unique section, and I know when we were doing our work years ago, we don't really have a lot of them in New Jersey. It's a very limited.
No, we
field.
don't.
Right.
I can list on one hand the
Right.
facilities in New Jersey that offer it.
Right. So if our viewers know anybody that wants to know a field they should go into, it's very significant.
Correct.
And
And very worthwhile.
Very worthwhile. So I guess I'm curious in terms of the rehab issues that you might see for somebody in terms of their vision. What remedies do you see?
Well, we can start by looking at the population that we're discussing and saying that there are many medical conditions that can impact on the visual system. And what we look at from my practice point of view and from motor vehicles perspective is how do those visual issues impact on the ability to drive. And so we can break that up into a couple of areas. We can look at it based on medications, we can do it based on disorders, or we can do it based on problems that occur within the visual system that impact on vision. If we do it from that perspective, we can break it into peripheral vision. We can
This side?
correct, and peripheral vision has many avenues as well. People that have had a stroke, so they may have a partial, they may have a full, what's called, and this is a mouthful, homonymous hemianopsia, which means that half of the visual world from the brain, not the eyes,
Right.
has been eliminated. And so when that occurs, let's say I have a left stroke, right side of my body might be affected, but I may miss half of my world visually.
Right.
And therefore, I'm looking at you, but I don't see anything over there. Well, that has a major impact, obviously, on driving, because the first issue is, are you cognitively intact sufficiently to understand that? And then how are we going to fix that? And there are some remedies depending on where and the extent to which the stroke occurred. We could also look at people who have only partial field losses that will do the same kinds of things. There are other things like glaucoma,
Right.
which will also create field loss. So those are non-stroke or traumatic brain injury related, but we could also look at a lot of our patients, unfortunately, over time fall. And so we can get bleeds in the brain, as our Secretary of State recently had, almost a bleed, thank
Almost a
goodness
bleed.
not. But from that, you could also get compression on some of those nerves that leave the back of the eye and end up in the back of the brain that affect, again, visual fields.
Right.
So there are a lot of consequences to that. Anxiety.
Anxiety about driving or anxiety
Well,
about...
while you're driving and you have anxiety, it's not uncommon to have generalized constriction. The tighter you get, the more anxious you get, the more your visual fields can close in.
Really?
Yeah, and that becomes a potential problem.
Before you go on, it's interesting. When I even said peripheral vision, the first thing I did was turn my head.
Always.
Which in reality...
You're reinforcing.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. So many of the vision issues that you've touched on are gradual. I mean, when someone has glaucoma,
Correct.
might they not know how their vision is affected so dramatically?
Generally, they don't
Just
sense
curious.
it, but what will happen is, as long as they're going routinely to whoever their eye care practitioner is, and they're getting visual field tests, the doctor will inform them, you have such and such a loss here, such and such a loss there. There are other areas as well. Reaction time. How quickly do I react to a stimulus that I see? So that has something to do with acuity.
Right.
It has something then physically to do with how well you respond, whether you're hand-eye or foot-eye. Depth perception is part of that as well. So if I don't think that the car is 50 feet in front of me while I'm driving 30 miles an hour, but I think it's 80 feet in front of me, my brake time might be a little different.
So what would affect
So-
someone's depth perception?
Depth perception, I know, it's there's a lot
sorry.
of big words.
I should be able to say it, but go
Okay.
ahead.
So depth perception really is a combination of the eye muscles that are coordinating and locking onto a visual image, and the brain is getting information just by little variations in that muscle movement to tell how far apart something is from something else.
Is it because of a stroke or an organic issue, or a medication issue?
All the above
All the
can
above.
have an impact on depth perception.
And if I may,
Sure.
one of the things that I want to point out, because of Dr. Einhorn's service on the medical advisory panel, the cases that are brought to the medical advisory panel are not limited by age. This is
Right, exactly.
anyone who, it could be of any age, are brought before the panel. But because we are speaking specifically today about some of the issues that might affect the older population, driving population.
I know many drivers really limit their nighttime driving. I mean, we were even speaking about your father,
Yes.
as a matter of fact.
Yes, my dad, and this is common with drivers as they age, they will change their driving habits, which is something that we actually encourage. If they see that, perhaps they don't want to drive at night anymore, limit their driving, perhaps not drive during rush hour on the roads when it's most busy. Also drive familiar routes as opposed to going on extended drives. These are all things that you yourself are changing your driving behavior to be safer if you see that it's kind of self-limiting. And that's a good thing. That means that you're monitoring yourself and keeping yourself in check.
Yeah, I just think it's very interesting because sometimes the nighttime issues are related to vision.
But frequently.
I mean, glare.
Glare.
And light requirements. I mean,
Cataracts,
cataracts.
which decreases the amount of light getting in.
There's an interesting statistic the doctor has pointed out at the Wisdom Behind the Wheels about how much light you need as you age. And,
Right.
What is that?
And what happens is, depending on the illumination that you have, but there is a specific amount of light that's necessary. The problem is that frequently
For
pupil
reading, for
size,
driving, for
any task. But what ends up happening is it's a lot of it's related to pupil size. So some people that have had cataract extraction or have had injuries to their eyes, their pupils may not react quickly enough. So those can actually either create too much light, which creates glare, or it may come down too small, and you lose the amount of light you need for the retina to be able to interpret what you're seeing. So there are lots of different things that really come into play that have a visual component to be able to drive safely.
Is there a way to combat the glare issue? I'm just curious at night. I mean, it's not putting on my sunglasses, is it? Come on now.
There's a simple way to do it when it works.
Okay.
And nothing is 100%. But if anyone has ever taken shooting lessons, there are yellow lenses
Yes, okay.
will enhance that you use for enhancing contrast. Also helps at night.
Really?
So there are
Sometimes,
little simple things.
not all the
no,
time.
not every situation is alike in terms of cause, but in some cases that becomes a nice way to not lose any of your light, and yet at the same time reduce some of your glare at night.
I would think if someone has an eyeglass prescription, that the person that's prescribing that could also give you a prescription for yellow lenses or whatever.
Or a clip-on.
Or a clip-on. Very interesting. So I think it's, I want to talk about a variety of things, but I think people want to know about remedies and, how they can stay functionally fit. And, vision is just one of them. I think that's a very important aspect. Drivers do limit themselves, and you said, they stay on roads that are familiar to them. So I think that's, kind of an interesting thing. But consequently, people also self-isolate.
The overarching message that we have in Wisdom Behind the Wheel, this program, with all the participants, is we're not out there to take people's licenses away. Even in the instance where someone has been brought legitimately before the medical review panel, the goal is to see how can we get them to drive safely, because we understand the power of having that license or not having that license. And it could make the difference between continuing to work, to continue to have a very good, active life if you're in retirement. We want you to keep your license as long as you can safely. And that's some of the work that's done by the medical review panel and by motor vehicles, my colleagues at DOT, our colleagues at AAA, AARP is a partner as well, and the American Safety Council. The goal is they all have very good programs that seniors can look at and say, all right, I want to monitor my driving, see how good I am. I want to go get my eyes checked regularly, particularly as you age, to make sure that there hasn't been any degradation in your vision, and do that so that you feel confident to drive at a particular level. And if you need to then start limiting your driving, you can do so.
Yeah, I was a little surprised when the doctor mentioned anxiety could change your focus, you know, because I do think of all the issues you just raised, Commissioner, about somebody being concerned about their driving, it could really elevate their anxiety, where they didn't have an issue before, but they might now.
Yeah, and we, to that end, as part of the panel for as many years as I have, I can tell you that my goal when I actually do these evaluations is always try to keep the patient or keep the client or keep the person on the road. Always. I go out of my way to find ways to be able to help them in that process by asking them to do certain things, which will in turn give them either an avenue to learn from their mistake, or to get some help from, to then be able to drive again. And it's the same as in my practice. We try to do things that will assist. You talked earlier about the driving programs. I frequently have my patients, and I ask people lots of times if they've had a problem with motor vehicle, to get a behind the wheel.
Behind the wheel, explain that a little bit more.
Behind the wheel implies one of two things. When it's with motor vehicle, they have to take the driving test again.
Oh, okay.
To make sure that they're okay. When it's a patient of mine, let's say they've had a stroke or they've had whatever the issue might be, before I feel comfortable letting them back on the road, we'll go to an occupational therapist and we'll have them, one that's qualified and certified in behind the wheel, and give them a pre-driver screening, which takes reaction time into account. They use my acuities, and then they'll look at color vision, which I'll usually also give them if they need that. And then if they pass those kinds of pre-cognitive kinds of tests, then they'll take them literally on the road. And they'll take them through farm areas, they'll take them through local town areas and highways to make sure that they're capable of driving on a normal kind of a basis. The idea always being to remedy them, get them back on the road, to give them the fullness of life that they feel that they need and that they do need.
Yeah. You know, I think it's nice to hear that. And the Commissioner, you mentioned so many partners, and we will put those partners' websites in the closing frames, whether it's the Automobile Club or whether it's, AAA.
AAA,
AAA, and AARP and some others. And you know, I think, you know, there also are cars that are more suitable for individuals, and I think CarFit really goes into that.
Absolutely. The AAA, during this Wisdom Behind the Wheel presentation that we do, we'll talk about that. You know, some of the ergonomics of particular vehicles or things you should be thinking about if you're going to buy a new vehicle that might be more suited to you and make it an easier vehicle to drive.
Yeah. Well, I do appreciate us really talking about the wisdom behind the wheel, and we will make sure that we have your phone number, not your home number, but your office number and your website so people can try to sign up for the program. But you have another very exciting program called Skip the Trip, I believe?
Yes, and this is really the commitment that we have to customer service. We just hit our 100,000 customer mark of customers who have renewed their licenses by mail.
Something we used to be able to
do. But now with enhanced security and all. And what we've done is we have pre-cleared people who are essentially 50 and older. We know who they say that they are, who they say they are. They've presented all the appropriate documents.
In the past.
In the past, and for one time they're allowed to skip one trip to motor vehicles, get their renewed license. Now the next time they come in, they will have to come in and get a new photo. But right now that's a way of allowing people to take some of the volume out of our offices by skipping the trip. So we know that they're going to enjoy it, not having to come and get their license by mail, but also the people that don't have to stand behind them, that do come to motor vehicles, will appreciate that as well.
So if I'm 50, which I am, or over 50, I will get in the mail
an invitation
to skip the trip.
Right.
And then you'll use my previous photo.
Correct.
Where I look incredibly younger.
Right.
And you'll have all the same data, presumably, if I
Correct.
haven't moved or anything.
That's right.
And I'll just pay an extra fee or the same fee?
It's the same fee. There's no additional fee. One of the things that we do encourage, of course, is that you visit your eye doctor.
My eye doctor.
And through our new program and our partnership with the optometrist in the state, that's a way of, again, helping with the volume in our offices, allowing customers to skip one trip in 8 years. They will have to come in the next time.
Got it.
So that's really good. And I said in 2 months, we've had 100,000 customers take advantage. Yes, take advantage of that. So that's a good thing. You know, we hope to increase that soon in the coming years with internet renewals, things like that. And this is something that we did in New York for many years, and we hope to expand that into New Jersey.
So if you were born before, what, 19?
You're not eligible just yet. It's essentially 50 and older is the population
50 and older,
we're
okay.
dealing with, and that was really for our purposes just a way of controlling the program as we got it started.
Well, I think that's a very nice initiative, very consumer-friendly, as you've said, and so is wisdom behind the wheel, which, of course, I want to call wisdom on the road, but it's wisdom behind the wheel. So I think that these are very nice things to share. Is there anything that you feel you want to tell us about other new issues on the road, either one of you?
Well, of course, at Motor Vehicles, we're always looking for suggestions from our customers on how we can improve our customer service. I encourage people to visit our website at njmvc.gov. Also to check that website if you do have to come to Motor Vehicles to see what type of documents you need to do your transaction, because that'll make it easier for the customer and easier for our clerks
The
as
6 points of identification. And doing
Exactly.
things like that.
Right.
Well, I really think it's been very informative. The doctor, you really shared some things that I had no idea about in terms of things that affect your vision, and hopefully it was new news for many of our viewers too. So I appreciate you being here. So thank you. It was just very beneficial, I think, to really talk today, because we want to keep everybody on the road safely. I do think driving is a privilege, and as you've said in the past, a responsibility that we have to stay safe. So thank you again. Aging Insights is produced by the New Jersey Foundation for Aging, and we appreciate support. So feel free to go to our website to look at how you can be a sponsor for New Jersey Foundation for Aging programs, Aging Insights. Our website is www.njfoundationforaging.org, or you can call our office at 609-421-0206. We want to remind you to find out about senior services in your area, to contact the County Office on Aging, which are also known as the Aging and Disability Resource Connection in your county. You will see a list of their numbers on our website, or you may call the state hotline number, which is 1-877-222-3737. Thank you for watching this episode of Aging Insights, and remember, aging is everyone's business and driving is a privilege. Thank you very much for watching today.